Okay, welcome to day 3 of our BFF Back to the Future flashback. We are going to be focusing on our supporting standards, mainly the 6th and 7th grade standards today over the next several sessions. We're going to start with kingdoms and domains, taxonomy. Taxonomy is the study of how living organisms are classified, so it's classification. And kingdom is the second broadest level. This is the second level. Domain is the broadest level. There are 3 main domains that we want to focus on. There are the eukarya. And these are our plants, animals, fungi, the larger organisms typically. Then, of course, we have the archaea, bacteria, and the bacteria. Both of these are your microscopic organisms. Down here, we've got cell composition, how they obtain food, and how they reproduce. These are the ways that we classify organisms. Cell composition, they are either unicellular, which is one single cell, obviously unicellular, uni means one, a unicycle has one wheel, or multicellular, that is clearly more than one. Plants, animals, fungi, they all fall into this category. How we obtain our food, we are either autotroph, we have autotrophic organisms that make their own food, like the producers. Largest group obviously are the plants. And our heterotroph. Heterotroph have to obtain food from other sources. Obtain nutrients from other sources, from an outside source. Obviously, animals fall into that category. Reproduction. Organisms are either asexual, that prefix a means not or lack of, so this is one parent. And in this type of reproduction, you get an offspring as an exact copy. And then you have, of course, the sexual reproduction, where you have 2 parents. And the offspring is half of each. So offspring gets half of their genetic information from each parent. Okay, the characteristics of a particular organism are listed below. We're going to do some practice questions. Characteristics of an organism: multicellular, autotrophic, has cell walls, has a cell nuclei, can reproduce either sexually or asexually. So multicellular, autotroph, that right there tells you it's probably going to be a plant. Multicellular plants are both those has cell walls. Cell walls are the only one with cell walls. Those are your plants. Has a cell nucleus. Plants have a cell nucleus. And they can reproduce sexually or asexually. That's a unique characteristic of plants as well. Fungi, definitely not autotrophs. Animalia, definitely not autotrophs. And the problem with the eubacteria is that they are unicellular. So the only one left is our plantae. Over here on the second one, eukaryotes are classified into 4 kingdoms according to certain characteristics. The diagram below shows some characteristics of the 4 kingdoms. Which of these is the plant kingdom? Again, we're looking for plants. So autotrophs is definitely what we're going to be looking for. No heterotrophs for sure. And the problem with this one over here, the autotrophs, no plants, I'm sorry. Which of the following is a plant kingdom? Okay, so then it's going to be The problem here is the heterotroph. There are no plants are heterotrophs. They're all autotrophic. So kingdom 2 is the only one that could possibly be the plant kingdom.
All right, guys, succession. We learned this in 7th grade. So there are two, basically succession is the process of predictable changes to the ecosystem until a mature, what they call climax community is established. Okay, so there are two types of succession. The first one, which is probably not very common, is primary succession. Again, it's not common. On this one, we start with just rock. Okay, so this would be maybe like a new volcanic island that has come up, a glacier retreat. What's left over as a glacier retreat is just island. It's just bare rock. So this starts. This big thing that starts right here is you have no soil. That is the big part right there. So if there is no soil, we have to eventually, in order for it to become a forest one day, soil needs to be made. So in order for soil to be made, we need something that can grow on soil. And that is what we call a pioneer species. Pioneer meaning like the first in an area. So our pioneer species under primary succession, again, is going to be mosses and lichens. What's neat about these organisms is that they can grow just straight on rock. So what happens is they grow and then they die. And their little bodies become a little layer of organic material. And then the more grow and then they die. And their bodies, and so on and so on and so on. And over time you get a thick enough little layer that finally you have what is known as soil. It's organic material. It's their dead little bodies. So then from there, so we start with rock here. From there, once we have we have a little bit of soil. Starts with rock, then we have soil. First thing always is going to be grasses and weeds is going to be the first thing that will grow. Those grasses and weeds, if left alone, will mature into like larger things like bushes, maybe then young trees, and then eventually mature trees, and that will eventually get our climax community down here. So along with each one of these stages, more and more complex organisms will kind of move in. So when you just have soil, you might just have little worms over here, little tiny insects over here, grasses and rocks. So we're going to have more complex organisms. Maybe now some birds come in, then some little, raccoons and stuff. And as we larger and larger, now we've got deer. That's a deer. And maybe over here now we have a big fat bear. So as we go into larger and larger areas, as do the organisms that live there. Again, primary is not as common. What we do see a lot of is going to be secondary succession, and that's this one over here. That's secondary succession. The big thing over here is that it does have soil already established, but something has happened. It's been disrupted. Maybe there was a fire, maybe there was a tornado, and so, but soil is still there. So as long as we've got soil, then again, kind of the same thing. We've got grasses and weeds, then bushes, then young trees, then mature trees. So this over here happens much faster because the whole development of soil takes a really long time, especially from a rock. So primary and secondary succession. Big thing is, does it have soil? Yes. If it's secondary, no, it's primary. So on this question, some students take care of a vegetable garden. When it's time to plant in the spring, the students leave part of the garden empty in order to observe ecological succession. Which of these will most likely occur first? So we're looking for kind of the pioneer species. So what occurs first? Well, again, like I said earlier, you need to ask yourself, is there soil or is there not soil? So if you have a garden and they have they left part of the garden empty, is that going, what are they leaving empty? Are they leaving soil there? Are they taking out just the plants? If it's a garden, it's going to have soil. So soil is present. So if we have soil, what is the first thing that's going to grow? First thing is going to be weeds and grasses. And that's this one right here. The development of soil is going to be primary, so that's first. I'll just put first. Growth of trees and shrubs, that's later on. First, this one's the secondary, and this is the pioneer species right here. And the development of a stream, that's not even part of it. So, weeds and grasses. Okay, sexual and asexual reproduction. So I think what's easiest is if we just do like a little T-chart right here. So one thing about asexual reproduction, asexual, like if I have a pencil, how many pencils do I have? I have one. So that is one parent. Okay, versus sexual reproduction, which has two parents. If you have one parent of asexual reproduction, 100% of the DNA comes from that one parent, and that makes the offspring identical. Over here, if you've got two parents, you have 50% of your DNA from mom, and 50% of your DNA is from dad. Yes, you may look a little bit more like one versus the other, but still they gave you 50-50. That means that the offspring is what they call diverse. Diverse is different. I like to think of like a litter of cats. If you've ever been around a litter of cats, the offspring, sometimes you'll have all the same, like let's say all black cats, or you can have a black and orange and white, black and orange and white, gray, all different kinds, because it is diverse, because they have sexual reproduction. Over here for sexual reproduction, this does take a lot more time, and if you think like for humans, like we take 9 months to have, for the gestation period of having a baby, not just more time for in the belly, but also more time raising. We can't just, have a baby and be like, okay, see you, bye-bye. But raising the child, they're not, they cannot just kind of survive on their own at infancy, whereas asexual reproduction over here, this is a lot less time. In fact, in some bacteria, they will reproduce every 20 minutes. And so also very little to none, little to no raising, because basically they reproduce so fast, they're almost adults almost instantly. So those are some advantages and disadvantages of those. Next one. So the question, certain species of whip-tailed lizards have only female individuals. So only female individuals and no males. No guys, sorry guys. These lizards reproduce asexually, which makes sense because it's only females, no males. What is one disadvantage of asexual reproduction? So we're looking for something bad having to do with asexual reproduction for these lizards. So let's read the answer choices. A new population can be established by a single individual in a relatively short period of time. Well, that's true because it takes a lot less time. But is that a bad thing? I would say anything, this would be an advantage, which would be good, and we're looking for something bad. So So that was wrong. All the members of the population are